All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and start discussing the fruits. I have 7 fruits here that we're going to be looking at. So the first is a pineapple, okay? As I mentioned in the PowerPoint, these are formed, each one of these little individual circle-esque kind of shapes here was once a flower, okay? You can still even see the flower remnants kind of hanging off of it. So one of the first questions that it asks you on the table on page 95 is the number of carpels of this fruit. This is a tricky one, okay? Because each one of these was a flower, and each one of these flowers had carpels. So I took a section out and I cut it in half so you'd be able to see. Hopefully that's pretty visible there for you. But you can see that there are 1, 2, 3 sections in here. So that means that each of these little sections in the pineapple came from one flower. Each flower had 3 carpels. So for carpel number, I'm not going to make you count them all and do the math. That would be quite cumbersome. So you can just say that there are 3 per flower and multiple flowers. Okay? Now, the ovary position. This is actually pretty easy to figure out. So I know we talked about the flower position and where the ovary was in flowers in terms of hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. But here we're going to do it a little bit differently since we don't have the flowers themselves. Okay? So here we're going to classify the ovary position as either inferior or superior. Okay? If it is inferior, it means that there is a stem on one side and then floral parts on the other side of the fruit, and it is in between them. If, however, the stem and the stem and the sepals are on the same side, it's superior. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at our pineapple here. As I mentioned before, each one of these sections contained a flower. Okay, obviously everything, all the fruit parts of it are inside, internal. Okay, we can see there the inside of the fruit. Apparently I'm not very good at cutting pineapples open. Sorry about that. But this is all the inside of the fruit. And as some of you may know, if you've ever cut through pineapples before, they do have this kind of core-like area in the middle. Okay, so that's where all these flowers kind of radiated out from. So this is kind of like the stem, if you will, if we're thinking about it in those terms. Okay, and as I mentioned, all of these over here are leftover floral parts. So in this case, we would have the stem on one side, the floral parts on the other side, and the fruit would be in between them, making this an inferior fruit. All right. Floral part that gave rise to the fruit. So we know that this fruit itself, just one little piece of it here, comes from an ovary. But we also know that multiple flowers came together to make this. All right. So these are multiple flowers fused together. Okay. And a lot of this in the middle here is considered to be kind of like a core. So that indicates that there was a receptacle involved as well. So based on what we discussed already, the 3 different types of fruits that we have are simple, aggregate, and multiple. And pineapple is our example of a multiple fruit because it formed from multiple flowers. Okay? However, it also has a core in the middle, which makes it accessory. So for floral part that gave, type of fruit, you want to say multiple accessory. And for floral part that gave rise to the fruit, you want to say that it was the ovary and the receptacle.